tritones. So my last podcast, I was talking about why music sounded the way it does, and I brought up tritones. If y'all remember, if you saw my last podcast, and I said something along the lines of, that'll be a different thing for a different episode. Well, this is that episode. So, tritones. So think of your normal major scale, and then think of the 4th note and the 7th note and play them together. You hear how dissonant that sounds, right? It sounds kind of straining, because that's the farthest you can harmonically get. It would be 6 whole tones away. So a whole tone, think of a whole tone here. So it'd be from C to D, or D to E, and then E to G flat or F sharp, whatever you want to call it. So with a whole tone, so it's 3 whole tones away, hence tritone. So it gives that weird sound, but it can be used in music if used properly. So if you think of resolving, right? So it can be used to resolve like to your normal 1. But there are like so many other ways to do it, because tritone substitutions. So you can use it as like a dominant. So like let's say a dominant chord, right? Let's say you're using a G dominant 7, which I used in the example for the last podcast when I was talking about Mixolydian and how it doesn't have that. So think of your G7, you hear the B and the F, and it creates that tension, but it can be released. So this is what it would sound like if it released. See what I mean? It can be used, and there are so many other jazzy ways to use it too, like a tritone substitution. So let's say you're in the key of C major, right? So the tritone from C major would be G flat major. So D flat dominant 7, you can make it resolve to C major instead of G7, because it's a tritone away and it uses the same tritone. So you can use that, but also a full diminished chord. That can be used in so many sorts of ways. And with full diminished chords, like there's really only I think 3 or 4, because like it's just you can't invert it, because then it'll just be a different chord. But so that's really just a stack of tritones, a diminished chord. For example, let's say C diminished, it would be the tritone between C and G flat, but then also E flat and A. So that's a stack of tritones. You can use it to resolve that way, and it gives kind of that lo-fi jazz. Like if you listen to lo-fi, you'll hear it a lot, or even in some of my songs you'll hear it. And so half diminished chords are the same thing. It's also called a minor 7 flat 5. The minor 7 flat 5 is just the same thing, but one of the notes isn't flattened. So like for example, D half diminished would be D, F, G flat, and then a C, and that could be used as a minor 4. If you remember from my last podcast, I brought up a minor 4. So like it sounds stronger, it creates more of a resolution because of the tritone and because of the chromatic movement. So to sum up, it can be used to resolve chords. It can resolve to the home, it can give a jazzy sound, it can sound even you can use it in funk, like for example Dorian. You can use it really however you want to use it, cinematic. So yeah, this is kind of a short podcast, but go be go.